You ready? Ladies and gentlemen, the board is back in session. Please govern yourself accordingly. Mr. Attorney, would you please review this item for us?
Yes, thank you, and I apologize for being a walk-on, but this offer came in yesterday by email, and I advised the attorney on the other side I need to bring it to the board for consideration. The summary is that there's a single-family home, as I understand it, in Stony Brook, single-family home in Stony Brook at 12426 Crooked Creek Lane, and a gentleman, prior owner of it was an Israel Lopez, and service was discontinued to the house in March 2008 due to non-payment of district utility fees. The last payment was March of 2008, and the last flow of water read through the meter was July 2008. The district locked the meter. Over the last 9.5 years, we had the various fees that were owed and accrual of penalties and fees. If you add it up on a straight line projection, the analysis by staff, and you may want to have Leslie in here at some point, Mike, was the $5,302. It doesn't appear that Mr. Lopez signed a service agreement. He just had a transfer of the service from Lennar, who we bought the house from. So the 4-year statute of limitations would come into play as far as recovering fees. And that's why and you'll see later on, I asked the staff to calculate what it would be based upon 4 years. And it would be $1,708.92.
What's that? What is
$1,708.92.
Okay, and what does that amount?
Equates to the fees and rates, penalties and charges since basically March of 2014, a 4-year time frame to today.
I see. Okay.
Another question. What is our procedure? What was our procedure at that time regarding a transfer from Lennar or any other builder? What's the process?
That process would be like any other new customer taking charge or buying a property or moving in, transferring the account.
So you see where I'm going.
And if
how
there's a
did that?
past due balance on that account, the owner is responsible for it. So if the new person comes in, it basically goes to the old owner to clear it up first.
I'm going backwards as to how did this guy get on our books and get us into this statute of limitations issue?
Oh, Mr. Lopez?
Yes. How did he get water service, sewer service, irrigation service, and not come in here
Oh, no,
and
he
get
did.
signed up?
Oh, no, he did. Okay, remember, he became a customer in 2004, 2005, I believe.
When they did he
Right.
transferred from Lennar.
Right, and he quit paying in 2008, and the meter
Okay.
was locked in 2008. And then just kept accruing and accruing, the meter was locked. If you look at the readings, there's like a funky 10-gallon reading.
Well, I understand all that, but it says, it does not appear Mr. Lopez signed a service agreement with the district.
Way at the beginning.
How did that happen is my question.
There is no service agreement our customers sign. We're working on putting one together so that the customers have to abide by.
As
our
opposed to the initial
policies.
application for service by the developer, which is in writing where they set the meter.
You see where I'm going.
Right.
How many more of these snakes are out there?
We-
Somebody else want to pull this stunt?
Yeah, we do have some bad debt from, customers leaving and not, the ability to file a lien or going after them.
So we don't have a Form A anything that would, say, trigger an initiation to start and stop what they're arguing. We don't have an agreement. How can they?
It's an unwritten agreement. Once again, he's providing the service, so it's a contract that's not in writing.
You see where I'm going, Tony, is the guy got his water bill the first month and he paid it.
No, he paid it for like about 4 years.
Okay, 4 years, that makes it even better. It's 24 times he's paid it. Boy, if that isn't an agreement, what is?
No, there's an agreement, but it's not a written agreement. For the 5-year statute of limitation, it's unwritten, so you get the 4-year statute of limitations. That's what that was there for. And
So what you're trying to tell me is that we are legally in between a rock and a hard spot on collecting anything more than $1,700 or $1,800.
more than, correct, in my opinion. And then Mr. Lopez in 2011 filed for bankruptcy. He did not name the district as a creditor in the bankruptcy. So in talking to Phil Burnett, our bankruptcy counsel, the opinion is the district's obligations were not discharged in the bankruptcy.
What knowledge should we have had of that?
We should have been listed as a creditor by the debtor at that time. And so
Where did we drop the ball on that?
we did not. And once again, unless you receive a notice from the bankruptcy court based upon the the party filing for bankruptcy listing the district as a creditor, you would not get that. That's not recorded in the public records. You have to go to the federal court PACER system to locate those pleadings typically.
So our operations firm at that time doesn't have any skin in the game, let's put it that way.
Well, they wouldn't know about the bankruptcy, typically. I mean, and that, again, that's a failure on the debtor's part to do that. That's his exposure, or her exposure.
Is this by any chance, and I hope the answer is no, is this a part of that $37,000 that's sitting outstanding that I brought up about 4 months ago at Stony Brook? Jesus Christ.
And so then what happened is Mr. Lopez filed bankruptcy, but in our opinion, it does not affect the monies that were owed. Let's fast forward to 2016. Apparently, there was liens issued or concerns by Stony Brook Gateway Master Association, and in talking to Leslie today, she recalls that when she started in May of 2016, a representative of the Stony Brook Master came to the office to inquire as to amounts owed, was advised of the amounts owed, and asked if they could be waived, and apparently April said no, they couldn't be waived. In September 2016, the Stony Brook Gateway Master Association began its foreclosure action and filed, like I said, what's in there, the list pendants. And the idea is to cut off any opportunity for anybody that has a lien right that's not recorded yet to jump in. The idea is give them 30 days to jump into the game. That does not get mailed to anybody. It just gets filed in the public records. And the legislature in their infinite wisdom has made that determination that is sufficient notice to any unsecured lien or encumbrance holder to jump into the fray within 30 days. It did not get mailed to the district. And so it cuts off any lien rights, any ability to foreclose a lien. The district, to my knowledge, was not notified or informed of the foreclosure action, and then there was a foreclosure sale where the Stony Brook Gateway Master Association was the only bidder, a successful bidder, and that was on October 30th of 2017.
Well,
Yes, sir.
this is what bothers me, is that we have a staff in there that sees that this number's getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Are we just sitting there waiting to see if it pops like a balloon?
I don't know.
Somebody seems to me to be, should have been watching the ship here. That this money, and we got not only this one, but how many more over at Stony Brook that appear that could take this same course?
Yeah.
What do we do to stop this? Who's watching this stuff?
Well, I think part of the question is, okay, why wasn't a lien filed early? Is part of the question that you're really asking. And I can't answer that, but I don't know what would have happened in the foreclosure action. Say the lien had been filed, and say the district had been named as a party in the foreclosure action. Whether or not the party foreclosing would assert the district's lien was inferior and try to wipe it out. I mean, those are things I'm not going to engage in hypotheticals.
You roll the dice
that.
on that.
Right.
But at least we took the action.
Would be in there. And-
We're doing nothing.
Well, once again, we have and it's part of, I think, the management changes that Chris and I briefly talked about doing, and also coming to the board with some different forms for application of service. I disagree with Mr. Levin. You can see from the emails that he and I don't get along on the legal principles. Whether or not the lien rights were extinguished, our rule is very clear that you have amounts due and owing before you get service to particular property. The statute references withholding service also. Mr. Levin has suggested that this thing is not resolved per his offer of yesterday, that he will, on behalf of this client, file declaratory judgment action as to the effectiveness of the rule with regards to withholding service, as to the district's ability to withhold service, and look for damages for lost tenancy. If you can see from my emails, I suggested that he pay the $1,700 under protest, start the utility service, get his tenant in there, and mitigate his damages. And you saw, he said, I don't have an obligation to do that, and my offer is $250 to settle the whole thing, and let's move forward.
His offer is $250.
Yes. But so, in part of any analysis, cost analysis that any party has to engage in when they make those decisions is, cost of attorney's fees, the cost of the court case, the opportunity for recovery, what's the chance of success. And so, if the board was to authorize a settlement for $250, it'd be one of those typical release documents where nobody admits liability. It's just a resolution of a disputed issue. or whether the board wants to say go back with a higher number in between the 2,500, the 250 and the 1,700, or just say pay the 1,700, you can pay it under protest, we'll give you service, if you want to get your tenant in there. And so that's sort of the discussion item. I mentioned to him I would bring it to the board today, because only the board can make this decision.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Yes, sir.
Do you have questions?
I do have questions.
Please proceed.
Thank you. Okay. He did not put this in his bankruptcy. Is this what I am
No,
understanding?
Mr. Lopez, who owned it many years ago, that's
Okay.
correct. He did not list the district's amounts owing debt as a debt.
So this is a debt that goes along with the property because it wasn't put in bankruptcy.
Well, it would be, and again, the lis pendens, though, extinguishes the lien on the property if you're asserting a lien. My position is that we have like an open account, an account receivable, an account stated irrespective of any lien rights as to money being owed.
So it has to be paid before the water can be turned on. Is this
That's
what
my
we're
opinion,
saying?
that's a district rule, and we have the ability also under the statute to
To do that?
do that, in my opinion.
All right. Thank you. You clarified that.
Mr. Attorney, if we get into court for $1,700, it's going to cost us more than $1,700, even if we're successful. Would you agree?
More than likely, yes.
Therefore, why should we not accept the $250 and hold our nose and go on to more important business?
That's one way to view it, and again, each case is viewed on an individual basis, it's ad hoc, and if parties try to say this is a precedent, no, each case has unique circumstances, and that can be a board determination that on the overall balance, that the time and effort expended, that would be expended to either defend the district's actions, and whether it's a year and a half, and whether, there's exposure to claims for liability, that at the end of the day, from a cost-benefit analysis, resolve it at the beginning before you start getting into both parties running up attorney's fees.
You need a motion to proceed? in one
Yes,
way?
sir.
Mr. Guy, may I make one brief comment?
Please.
Even though we had been sending the bills to the attorney for Stony Brook, and Mr. McCaucus came in and researched this, they did a very good job of making sure their HOA fees were paid as part of this sale. And we were left hanging out to
Good
dry.
for them.
Yep. So-
I thought I heard you say something, but I hope that isn't what I heard. Say that again?
So their attorney had been getting the bills from us on that property all along. And Mr. McCulca came in and spoke with April and talked about trying to get out from underneath that. We told them no, but they quit claimed it, but made sure their HOA fees were paid as part of that transaction.
Yeah, I don't know if the HOA fees were paid, but the foreclosure listed all the amounts due, and I don't know what they got paid. I mean, there's no record in the record as to what the association received, but Mr. McCulca is a gentleman. When I referenced that a member of the board came in May of 2016, that was Mr. McCulca, according to Leslie. I spoke with Leslie this morning.
Leslie would like to talk.
Hi, Leslie, come on in.
I just want to clarify, on this particular property, we changed over in October based on the documentation submitted to Stony Brook. So that's another account that you had mentioned about. But this one, and particularly with this address, that
I didn't realize it was changed over.
yeah, the documentation sent over was November. In November, it was changed over to Stony Brook.
Okay.
What does that mean?
So I just wanted to clarify about the statement about the property.
What
that-
does that
that-
change?
that
It doesn't
did
change
occur-
anything, it's just.
That did occur, but not with this property address.
Leslie, is water being supplied to this property at the moment?
No.
I guess the question is, it was changed over to another entity without paying the past due amounts.
Correct.
And
For
so
the
I don't think it
property.
has any effect here because that owner then conveyed it, and I think it's a trustee deed is what I have. It's a trustee's quitclaim deed is what it is, where the association conveyed it to the current owner of the property.
Okay.
You want to take the 250 and go ahead?
No.
Oh, what do you want to do?
Then I'll make a motion. Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah, and again, again, if in fact, and I didn't understand that from our conversation this morning, that the account was transferred over to the Stony Brook Association in
It
November.
was.
And if we did not receive payment at that time from Stony Brook,
Well, we
I
wouldn't.
know we didn't turn on the water, but
Our process involved in these accounts is that we check periodically. There are no bankruptcy or liens or foreclosures against the property. This account did not. On January 3rd is when we discovered that the account technically was filed bankruptcy, and we changed it over per LIPA and what we saw online with Lee County. And then from Stony Brook Master Association, it went to Black Point Assets. So when it transferred over to Black Point, this all occurred within a month.
Yeah, and for the record, bankruptcy proceedings, typically, the filings don't appear in the official records, the public records. You have to use, unless somebody files in a foreclosure action, to stay the foreclosure action, the bankruptcy filing and initial order, that won't show up in the public records. It shows up only in a bankruptcy filing in the federal court, and unless you're subscribed to PACER, you won't find that. And so PACER's an easy thing to subscribe to. That's where you'll find the bankruptcy filings. In the bankruptcy, again, that's where you'll find those.
So this is the only property outstanding that has technically a bankruptcy filing against it. From
Well,
what
the property
the
doesn't
other
have any
ones we have.
bankruptcy, it's an individual. So
Right, the
okay,
individual,
for
sorry.
And it's a prior owner, and that bankruptcy was in 2011. And again, it did not discharge the district's debt, in our opinion, because the district was not named as a creditor in those proceedings.
I'm still
So it's
thinking.
one of those ones where we're going to win the battle and lose the war.
Yeah. Now, you have a.
I'm thinking still, I'm looking. I'm still,
The current owner, BPA, wants to move in and have their water turned on. Is that so?
Correct. They have a tenant.
They said they have a tenant, we've not
Said
seen a
they have
lease,
a
but they
tenant.
say they do. And I'll take the attorney's word at it, I guess I should.
The-
You can fill in the blank, folks, if you want. With the pause.
The current tenant, or the owner,
The putative tenant, the asserted tenant, yes.
pardon?
The asserted putative tenant by the current owner, BPA.
now I have a question.
You, I stand corrected.
Yes, sir.
She has a question, Bill.
You've ruined my train of thought,
sorry.
just one second. The current owner and the reputed tenant, they haven't done anything to incur a big liability from us, have they?
Not to my knowledge. The meter's locked.
And the old owner went bankrupt from federal court.
Correct.
Okay.
The original owner, who then had his property foreclosed when the Stony Brook took and then conveyed it to BPA.
Please go ahead.
Okay. I have a question, no, my question is, the original adding up all the fees was $5,302.20, correct?
That's correct.
And you want to bring.
And Leslie can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay, and you want to bring it down to $1,708.92 as,
Not a matter of want to, it's a matter of, you have a,
That's a 4-year, right?
yeah, assuming for sake of discussion that's the maximum amount, in my opinion, that the board could recover based upon the statute of limitations in this instance. And that's if, assuming we're successful.
But you're not guaranteeing we're going to get that.
That's correct. I don't guarantee outcomes of any judicial proceedings.
Mr. Tingle?
I don't like the taste this is leaving my mouth at all, but I don't think we have any choice.
You want to make a motion, we accept the 250 and go on to other business?
I'll make that motion.
I'm not seconding it.
I'll second that motion. Any further conversation? All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
2-1, motion carried.
Bill, I would like to bring up one more on this then, now that I got that out of my system. That leaves us about 32,000 left negative at Stony Brook. What do we have to do to put a full court press on every penny of that 32,000 where this don't happen again? Start the legal action against every one of
If the board
those.
wants to direct staff to prepare the necessary liens to file, so that it's a matter of record, so that at a minimum, when there are any filings in the future, we will be notified of any filings as to the real property. It may not result in people being honest on their bankruptcy filings? Again, that's not an official records matter. but-
Let's show them we're going on the offense. I
Okay.
make the motion to authorize staff to proceed with all actions to make those filings. For every one of those that are in Stony Brook, the total that 30,000 plus.
Well, and I guess the board may want to also make a determination, just generally, maybe it's a further discussion after talking with Chris and Leslie internally, about at what point in time should the staff, as a matter of course, prepare and file a claim? After 1 year delinquency, 6 months?
We didn't even know that we had that one.
Right.
Until I found
Right,
it.
but I'm just, once again, or is that something you want to wait for the staff to come back with a recommendation, give us direction to file a claim of lien or lien after X number of months?
I would allow you, yeah, do that, put it on the agenda for the 15th, but my point is no more playing nice guy with Stony Brook.
Okay,
It's
will
not
you
Stony
withdraw,
Brook.
please?
But
Yeah, I don't
we'll be
think-
inclusive of all, but Stony Brook is the one that's got the huge listing of the ones doing it to us.
Will you withdraw, please?
I will withdraw.
Thank you. Mr.
So if you
Attorney?
can have that, put the plan together of how we will proceed.
Absolutely. Mr. Manager, you got that? Yes, sir.
Okay, and so I'll notify Mr. Levin or Levine of the board's action. Thank you.
Do you have any other goodies for us?
No, sir.
Thanks. Thanks, Leslie.
That's,
Oh, wait a minute. I'm
that's
sorry.
goodies with a small g, I take it?
That's it.
I have questions for the attorney.
For the
Yes,
attorney,
same
yes,
here.
go ahead.
Okay. At our last meeting, it was requested that you write a letter to Saucy Meatballs and.
Yeah, what I prepared a form letter for the business I sent to, I think, Michael and Chris. And I'm not sure if they went out, they may have. And there's another letter I need to draft for Chris or Michael's signature with regards to the charter school. Since there's different circumstances, I've not finalized that one yet.
And in the letter, did you mention not just the landscaping, but the irrigation heads? Because,
I believe I did. I think I mentioned all the district's improvements and facilities.
only because that's what I'm really worried about.
I'll double check, I can pull that up, but I believe I mentioned all landscaping that's in there.
Because at Saucy Meatballs, they're even parking in front of the FBI building. So I'm looking, I don't want all this damage that we'll have to pay for. That's what my concern.
I'll double check, I'll pull it up before we get to the supervisor's comments.
One thing along that line, maybe ask Mike, because I think he's been working on it. What do we have to do just simply to go out and get no parking signs and post them there to where we can get the police to come in and arrest them?
I'm going to address that during my time.
Okay.
You know, no parking, because even this morning, when I came in this afternoon,
Well, they're doing it every day.
it's amazing. it's like
Please,
they're-
go
They're
ahead.
ignoring
like
us.
they're hiding in the bushes.
Okay, I have
Mrs.
a-
Flaherty has another.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's okay. At a meeting, we did not take Girl Scout, the Girl Scout Road. Is that correct?
Girl Scout Drive, that's correct.
That's correct. Okay, so how about the maintenance of all the landscaping? Are we still responsible for it?
Okay.
I believe we have easements for that, and I'll double check that.
Yes.
Okay,
We-
I just want to double check.
We have the signs, the streetlights, and the landscaping on all those.
I just kind of wanted to double check since we didn't take the road over. Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
But
Please.
following up, good lead in. We had an issue, and I think it's since been corrected, the issue down in West Links Business Park about lights, street signs and all
Yeah,
that.
I'm comfortable, and I've got more minutes that they are the districts.
I'm positive they're the
Yeah, what
districts.
I-
But anyway, the answer is Bentley Electric went in and fixed it, so it's all taken care of now. But my understanding is that everything I've researched, we own basically streetlights, street signs, and landscaping everywhere in the community that isn't covered by another HOA. It's that simple.
Yeah, and just as a background, what I'll do, since I retrieved a bunch of the minutes from 93, 94, the various contracts with Bentley Electric for the installation of the streetlights, includes West Links and I'll provide all those to Michael since I've pulled them all out. So
Okay.
I'm comfortable with that also.
Then the next one I got, which I think is a legal question, I don't know when this occurred or how it happened, but we all got a letter from Miss Betty Pissarro that lives in Stony Brook, complaining about the property behind her, the common area behind her house. Well, the common area is dedicated to the Stony Brook Master Association. Come to find out that this illustrious board, some time ago, decided that we would do the landscaping for the Stony Brook Master Association. How in the dickens did that happen? No other HOA gets this benefit.
What's the common area, Mr. King?
There's two common areas, as I understand it. Yeah. This, every time I turn around, there's a snake under a rock
Do you
around this
have a track
place.
number? Where's her address, I guess I can get?
She's at 12426. She sent us a letter. I don't think I
I don't
brought a
think I
copy
have
of it.
that.
All the board members got it. But the issue was, a simple question was, who's going to come in and take, and it was through the CDD, when are you board members going to get somebody to go out there and clean up what she called a wetland or a conservation area, and it's not either, it's a common area.
How do you know that, how do you know this board agreed to do that?
Elle told me before the meeting.
If I could get the information as to the track and all that.
But I understand
I don't know if
why-
Mike or Chris has tracked it down yet or not.
Nobody else in this community gets the stuff Stony Brook gets. It's almost like, this is ridiculous. My HOA would love to have that, have us coming in and taking care of this. But my point is that I sent her letter back following reviewing it on LIPA, and it's purely Stony Brook Master Association, along with another plot that's similar. Elle said that doesn't have anything to do with it. The board, this board, said that they would take care of it since they were taking care of the road right-of-ways. Well, the road right-of-ways is a totally separate issue. That is indeed ours.
Well, do me a favor, if you could get that for me, because even though another entity may own a piece of land, if there's an easement in favor of the district for a particular use or purpose, that provides an opportunity for the district to engage in activities. And so I don't know if there is, or may not be.
What I learned from Elle is that she was just told to do it.
Oh.
Told to do it.
If you can send me that letter, if that's okay.
I'll grant you, if we granted an easement, I'll have about 18 of them coming in from Gateway Greens at the next meeting. You can do ours too.
We don't need to publicize that anymore.
This is just, it's bull.
Yeah,
But anyway, I'll get
I'll
that
do it. Yeah,
information
please
to you.
do.
But
Please do.
that was the last legal question.
Please do.
Thank you. Mr. Manager, are you ready for your reports?
I'm trying to find it. Fixed irrigation.
Just quickly, we'll be meeting Monday with Reflection Isles, the HOA, talking to them about access to Area 9. We also had the agreement for the last loan finally executed by the district secretary at the FDEP. We've submitted some cost documentation, and we plan and hope, working with them, that sometime next week we can put in reimbursement for the $4.4 million construction costs for Phase 1. We also will be starting in the next 2 weeks on some survey and maintenance for the stormwater system. We finished a couple weirs at Hampton, and we'll be moving throughout the whole system, just getting elevation data. I also, just for information purposes, we had an application come in through Grady Minor Engineering for 76 townhomes to be constructed at the corner of West Links and Commerce Drive. So that little sliver of property behind the daycare there is 76 townhomes planned.
Ooh.
And we also had a planning a planning consultant come in, and I have some handouts if anyone wanted to look at them, but they just wanted to let us know that there's application to have an additional mine way south on 82, but it will probably impact truck traffic on Daniels.
Say again, what's going on?
Well, they're going to rezone 2,200 acres for additional lime rock mining, and they're concerned, and they say, well, Gateway should be aware of this because it could result in additional truck traffic on Daniels Boulevard. And they gave us a very slick presentation, which I have copies of, but if anybody would like a copy of it. And of course, you have to take it in stride because it is from a marketing firm that the next door neighbor hired that doesn't like the idea of the mine being there, even though there's 5 other mines in that same area. And we are moving forward with the board retreat on the 22nd. And we'll also have Russ Wire with econometrics, and on the agenda, we'll be talking about assessment methodology, and he's going to have a short presentation on methodology and for discussion. And I will have the agenda for that meeting on the 22nd on the February 15th board agenda for your review and comment.
Has he got a notice to proceed to go on ahead and start and get his background
Yep.
information going? Good.
He's moving forward, spoke with him the other day.
So he will be answering any of our specific questions and our desires at the retreat.
Correct. When the board approved his contract, they also wanted a presentation and a discussion about that, and I figured it would be more appropriate to have that at that planning and policy retreat as a discussion there.
Anything else for the manager?
No, sir.
How about our public works manager? Do we have anything, Mike?
Well, Mike's getting ready, if I can finalize my answer to Mrs. Flaherty. The letter references landscaping consisting of sod, trees, bushes, and irrigation facilities. So it's all covered.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
These are two different.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The color pictures that I gave you, I had heard back from Lee County Department of Transportation regarding the no parking on Gateway Boulevard and parts of Commerce Lakes. But to answer your question, Ms. Flair, the reason the letter didn't go out yet, I also asked them to address the issue with the new business at the corner of Commerce Lakes and Gateway Boulevard that is impacting the rights-of-way there on Commerce Lakes Drive and Gateway Boulevard, where they're parking within the road rights-of-way and impacting our landscaping and irrigation. So
Thank you.
before I send that letter out, I want to also get the county to finalize the plan where we're going to put all the no parking signs. I wanted all the no parking issues to be resolved at one time. Didn't want to do it piecemeal. So I hope that this will satisfy the intent of the board. This will give law enforcement the ability to ticket individuals who are parking in these areas once the signs are erected. The county will put the signs up. Any questions about that? Does that meet the intent of what you asked for?
Yes. Yeah. I
And
just
the
pray that
second-
they don't park on the other side of the street and walk across.
It's a busy road.
Then we'll get a kid hit.
That'd be a bad
Don't
thing.
even mention that.
The
It's a
second
mess down there.
item that I gave you, and unfortunately Mr. Banks is not here, but we were able to find out where some of the dollar figures had come from that he had been asking staff about. Unfortunately, with just the turnover of staff, institutional knowledge about how some of these things came about had been lost. But the board, actually back in 2008, had instituted the $23 per hour lighting fee. That was a board action that they put in place, but at that time decided not to charge the youth sports. But that dollar figure had come about from the board.
You say this was 2008?
Correct. With some of the documents that I gave you there, we, in working with Mr. Kraft, we were able to go and look at our FP&L bill online. Mr. Tinkle said, well, you should be able to go figure out, kilowatt hours, but they actually break it down per hour and give you a dollar figure. So we've got 2 meters out there for the front fields and the back fields. We're averaging $50 an hour to run the lights per field is the dollar figure.
And what was the number that we had approved?
48.
No, it's 2023
No.
per light. So it's costing us approximately $50 an hour for the lights.
So are we saying that it's equality, or is it still subsidized?
It's still subsidized, but it's a.
Well, the argument was the opposite of that we were double charging.
Yeah.
Correct. I just wanted to point out to the board that we did research this, found out where the fees had come from, and then double-checked that what we were currently paying is in excess of what we're asking the users to pay.
Now you're talking about current now, or are you talking about 08?
Current now.
Current. So you're telling me that these emails that I get from Jeff don't have the correct numbers in it, is that correct?
That's what I would assert.
Do you have any numbers for us as to the number of participants
Yes.
that are that are playing soccer?
We would need to get those numbers from the leagues.
I wish you would, and have we a signed contract now?
We do,
Okay.
and we'll bring that forward for,
And are
have
they
that signed.
are they squealing and cursing and everything at us?
They signed the contract.
Please.
Made them an offer they couldn't refuse.
The number of participants, can we have it divided, and how many are in Gateway, and how many are out of Gateway?
They do provide that information, because the non-gateway residents, they actually pay an additional, they pay a fee for not living in Gateway.
Okay. And not percentage, I would like numbers.
No, they produce numbers, because they pay that fee per individual that's not a resident.
Okay, thank you.
Any
Any other questions for Mike?
Yeah, a
Yes.
couple. Where are we at on park consultant? The gentlemen were here a while ago about the Silver Lakes. They've been here several times.
I'm
I
going to
wanna
meet
get
with
that
them,
going.
and actually, we're going to, part of it, we don't have money budgeted just to go out and construct something. I mean, we need to.
No, we're talking about fees. Fees to retain a consultant. We aren't doing anything till we're just getting them in here to talk to them, to get an idea of what we're going to need to budget to have them do this work. We can transfer money.
Right.
But to go out and do like these guys wanted, to build bocce ball down here that's kind of a afterthought behind the soccer complex on Pond 92 is a mistake. Somebody falls in there, they're going to drown, then we'll get sued. But we need a master plan. A
Understood.
phased
That's-
master plan. But the
that's
first
one
thing
of-
we got to do is hire a consultant. But I'd like to get the consultants in here to talk to them and see what they have to offer to us.
That's why actually at the retreat, I want to actually talk to the board to, find out what your goals and objectives are, for some sort of master plan, so I can reach out to them and need to speak with all of you so that we have a consistent plan moving forward, what your expectations are. I don't know what they are currently, so to bring people in and.
We'll make sure everybody comes to that meeting prepared to explain what they're looking for.
Yes, sir.
Next one, I got Pond 106. Where are we at on getting that rehab? The neighbors over there, the Indians, are getting restless.
I think we were going to take the contractor over there, and we were talking about that just this week. There's 3 ponds, actually, we're going to do a little work on. There's the 3 experimental ponds.
What are we, the 2 of them are done. What are we going to do different?
Put the rock on where there is no rock and it's bare surface where they
On
decided.
the golf course side?
I don't know if we're gonna do any golf course side work.
Well,
Yeah, but I mean, the other 3 ponds have rock all the way around except on the golf course side.
Right.
The other 2, the third one, which 106, is the one that didn't get any.
Right, it just had dirt put on top of it, which has since washed away, so you have bare material.
Correct. That's the one that we had the proposal to go in, reestablish the grade, and then put the stone on. That's the one I'm asking is,
we'll take him over there, because we also, access will be an issue getting in there with the stone, but we're.
well, we have the easement.
Right, we've
That's how
spoken
we
to
did
the contractor, and we're
Okay, then-
work with him.
Getting
Well,
bids.
just the weather is working perfect to do it, and do it soon. Next one is our Lee County LDO issues. Where are we at on the 5 ponds? Have we got that LDO submitted?
We're waiting to get I have the application ready to go. I'm waiting to get our check from Inframark.
A check.
Rolls off the tip of your.
Application check?
Correct.
What does that take?
You have to submit a check request.
I understand that, but what does it do? Call up the East Coast, send a check for $250. I mean, is there a holdup there?
Oh, there's a lot of holdups.
Speak to me.
It can take 2 to 4 weeks.
Are they dragging their feet?
It can take 2 to 4 weeks to get paperwork, and we're having a hard time getting vendors paid also.
They're not paying bills for the district. There's a.
Got to ask the question, you brought it up. Why? They work for us. Did they don't understand that?
No, but I'll answer it, they do, but they've historically been slow paying vendors, and a lot of times, it's like if we pay it within 30 days, that's fine, and it's the same thing if we send them a check request and ask them if they get it within 30 days.
Chris, in my opinion, that is not acceptable.
Yeah, well, we've been.
I think it's
beating
time
on
to
them.
bring them in here and maybe start looking at other firms. Or better yet, if we're in a position, do it ourselves. I mean, this is ridiculous. Our vendors should be paid timely. That's not right.
Yeah.
But I'm sure we will have that check shortly for,
So this
the
will certainly
LDO.
be continued at the retreat, because I'm fed up with that. That's not right. When you call up there and you need a check to file an application fee, $250, that check ought to be in the mail that day back over here.
Mrs.
What kind
Flaherty
of
has
service
some-
are we getting out of them?
You're absolutely right. Mrs. Flaherty has some questions for Mike, though. Are you
I had-
finished?
I just had one other, LDO for the 8 ponds, same thing?
I'm waiting for the check.
That's all I had. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
Where are we with the sign for the deaf child in Stony Brook?
I have the sign in the shop.
Okay.
We're gonna get some staff, they've been rather busy with utility stuff. We get them out there and install the sign, but we have it.
Okay. And could you just update us on the landscaping contracts that have
That will be, there's an action item we're actually gonna discuss.
landscape?
Excuse me,
Bids.
sorry. We had our pre-bid meeting yesterday for our landscape contracts. The Parks and Rec, the Bahia, landscaping overall, and then the fourth contract, it's escaping me now, but there's tree trimming, correct.
Bill, I did have one other one.
Go ahead.
When's the pre-bid meeting on the 6 ponds and the bid opening?
February 9th, is the pre-bid.
February
Yes.
9th? Okay.
So it'll probably be a couple weeks after that.
Okay.
And we've already gone out with a few contractors, just walking them.
Several people are asking when they're going to start work on their ponds, and so I said, my guess is 45 days, we should be in there.
You good?
I'm good.
You good?
I'm finished, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Sure. And then there was the other item that we'll talk about, that's the action item with the monument signs.
What are you talking? Yeah, you're way late on the, come to the podium and make it quick, we've got more visitors.
Steve Nacia, Magnolia Lakes. Last year, the board had indication that our lake was on schedule to be done early in late 2017 or early 2018. Are we still on schedule, or are we get moved off the priority list?
But Magnolia Lakes was pulled out separately. That was the one where you guys were doing some separate agreement with somebody. So that's not on our schedule. But we had talked about doing something with them separately, and I don't know whatever
Yeah,
happened to that.
repair work on the washouts, but not a whole redo on the lake, is what we've been working on, not a whole stone, just going in there and repairing washouts.
Okay.
Point repairs.
Yep. And we'll be looking at that same time with Stony Brook and 106, and I imagine the next 6 weeks we'll get working on that when the water gets way low.
Okay.
And
All right.
that's one of the reasons we have some of that extra material stockpiled over there is 483.
Okay, thank you.
Utility manager?
Kenny Hall, Utility Manager. I just have one thing. I just wanted to bring up to speed on Pelican Reserve. Last week, we did the largest flush we've done down there to date. We moved about 400,000 gallons on 3 days in conjunction with the residents, 2 times a day. And it seemed to have, from the surveys that we got back from the people, the residents in Pelican Reserve, we got a lot of really good positive results out of it. We're at the end of the road on this issue. As far as the district goes, we got the second part of their full range of battery tests back, and they all came back pretty all of the testing results came back within specs. Everything was good to go on our side of it. We are going to look at hiring a plumber and we're gonna take one resident in each neighborhood and go through and change the service line in the back master bathroom and look at all of the traps. And then we'll look at hyperchlorinating a line or replacing it altogether. And that will be done through the Residents Alliance, hopefully next week. On the next meeting, I should have a final report from A to Z on this issue in Pelican Preserve. But as far as the reports go and all of the testing, our water has been, if nothing else, in that area has been thoroughly tested, thoroughly, with a capital T. And everything came back good. Good. It is more of a plumbing residential issue as far as all that we could find. We are looking to give them, we're going to take the worst one from each one of those neighborhoods and looking to give them a definitive answer. This should work, this will not work, what have you. But say at the next meeting, I should have a full and complete report.
Is Gateway gonna pay for this digging out and all this business?
Oh, we're going to take one residence per one in each neighborhood and model it and then give them the results to see. We're fairly certain it's a plumbing issue on the cold water side.
I'm glad to hear that. I think that's above and beyond, and I'm glad to see that we're going above and beyond, because this is a terrible situation
Yes, it
for
is.
those folks.
Yes.
Are you staying in touch with Lennar on this business?
Not with Lennar, no. They're well aware of it through all the email and correspondence that we've had. They're well aware of the issue. Again, if they've chosen to flush their residents that are sitting empty, we greatly encourage it. And we can track it so we can tell exactly how much water are moving through those empty houses. I'd say on their end, I would imagine they would be doing something.
Scott, if I may make a quick, because I was involved with this issue from the very beginning, and I told several residents over there, it's really against utility policy to go inside someone's home. Once the water goes through the meter, it's not our business. However, we did go into homes and did flushing and check for these different bacterias and things and let Lennar know. And basically, when I told them they needed to look at some of these plumbing fixtures, and it was an internal problem, they continued to point the finger at Gateway and actually threatened me with legal action if I continued my testing and making those assertions. And I said, we're just trying to solve the problem, but as we get more and more into this, and the whole time along, we said, it's not our issue with the water, something's going on, and it really comes down to some of those P-traps and a couple pieces of line from our investigations, and also looking at things going on in other counties, and that's what we're really going in there to do. It's not the finger pointing, but if we can go in and clean those fixtures and do it, we can at least say, here's a way to solve your problem.
That's wonderful, but if they start threatening you, that may change a little bit.
Well, it's their homeowners that are getting annoyed and having an issue, and I think it's coming back to bite them a little. But I've been sending those reports to Rhonda Brewer, and they're aware of it, and just keeping her informed of what the Alliance is doing and also what we're doing.
Thank you very much. Kenny, is that it?
Yes, sir.
Questions for Kenny?
Yeah, one, I thought you'd bring it up. As my understanding, I thought I saw something that the check from Florida Line cleared. Am I dreaming something? I thought I read it.
Back in October, I think it said.
I asked it months ago and nobody knew anything about it. It cleared. So,
I wasn't
so
aware
then.
of that.
You keep
they've
asking, that's the first time I've.
Yeah, it's the first time I've heard it. So if that's the case, then that deal is over. They accepted our deal. I think the next one is, we following up on what you said at the last meeting. When the 1 year period is up, which is about, another 3 months, I'd like to have a report on what the 1 year total of bad MIUs was, so that we know just exactly what
Yeah, we can
where
give you-
we're at on this.
I can give you the January to January numbers. I can.
That's
give you
fine.
those. Yeah.
It's fine.
We have those numbers.
Do you have anything?
Okay.
anything for-
That's all I had.
No, I don't.
You do not?
No, I don't.
Thank you very much. Ken. Accounting and finance?
All right, just real quick, in regards to taking our payroll over from the management company,
We didn't make the timeline of our last payroll. It was coming down to literally minutes, and I didn't want fingers pointed at me when our staff didn't get paid, so we pushed it back one more. They have given us our management company has finally been working with me and turned everything over that we need, and I dropped it off actually a little before this meeting, so they're supposed to confirm with me Monday, and they'll be able to take it over as of Wednesday.
Where are they located?
Right off of Colonial, near that church around the bend, and where the Social Security office is.
The big Baptist church?
Yeah, yeah, they have a little branch in there, so it's back in those buildings. And that's that, so we're all good there. The issue that was just brought up with Mike, yeah, I mean, it's bad. Thank you. There's many vendors that are not getting paid timely.
You know that's gonna bite us on
You are
on
kidding.
bids.
Well, and
Yep.
yeah, and I mean it's everything. I mean, today's the first. Yesterday, if we didn't get payment in by tomorrow, our health insurance was canceled for all of our employees,
Like,
and
Come on,
and
this-
goes back a month. So
Somebody's got to make a phone call over there and rattle a cage.
It-
This is
it's so-
ridiculous.
and it's, I mean, there's many that this is happening to. The health insurance, there's moving parts in that. It's a couple sides. I mean, we get billed the 18th. We don't receive it for another 5 days. We send it over to them. It takes another 5 days for a check to get cut, and it's due the 31st. So I've gone and we set up an account with the insurance company. By next week, I'll have access to our account, and I can put on auto ACH. I've received a voided check of ours, so we can start putting things on auto ACH. A couple, we've had to pull our business credit cards out to pay to keep things going. And I've only been here a few months,
Stephen Bloom at the
and
next meeting.
every time I would email or
It's time to
to
rattle
get
his
information, I never heard anything. I can say, in the past week and a half, I've talked with them very often, and they are actually working with me, helping us out. And I actually just this morning I talked to Paula, has really been helping me. She's the AP manager over there, and she actually gave me access to, it's called Avid Exchange. It's how they track all of our invoices and everything. Everything we send to them gets scanned in there. She gave me an account where I can actually go and look and see the payments and be able to track it, whereas the way we were doing it now is almost, it's non-existent.
We pay them.
Right.
That's their job. I would make the deal, let's Steve Bloom be in here next, at the February 15th meeting. I'm ready to make a motion to terminate him.
Yeah, Mr.
This is
Chairman,
just ridiculous.
We
said ready.
I know how you feel, but don't go off half-cocked.
I said ready.
Mr. Chairman, what you may want to consider also is, the process probably is that Infomark pays themselves without any prior authorization from this board. Whether or not you want to authorize the manager to send a letter to Infomark saying, please withhold making any payments to yourselves until we resolve some of these issues. I can't recall what their monthly fee is. I mean,
What do you
it's-
mean their
yeah,
fee
it-
from us?
correct,
And
because
they-
they're automatically probably just withdrawing that from the account.
Oh, I
ACH.
imagine it's 30 days late too.
I doubt it for the ACH. It might be-
Yeah, right.
I mean, yeah, it was
This is
not good,
ridiculous.
but I'm hoping that it may get better. I mean, we send them to them. We just hope that they get paid. The way that we're tracking, it's not very good, and it's kind of hard to do. We go off their check registers. Well, when they don't even send us the check registers on time, and we email them for them.
What
and
does our
still-
contract call for with them? We have a contract that
And-
stipulates this stuff. This would be a violation of the contract.
Well, and in our contract, it's funny to me to see, but we had actually added a line in the contract that says any late payment that we take on due to them not paying on time, they have to reimburse us for. Well, we could take the time, and it'd probably be a pretty significant amount of money each year, but it would also take a lot of time to literally flip through every bill and add them up. But apparently that's how bad it was in the past, that this had to be added, when I see that, to me.
I again make the request, have Stephen Bloom at the next meeting, ready to answer all these questions. This is ridiculous.
And it was aggravated because their name changed, their ownership changed, and they moved to another building recently, and so it has, the last
And-
couple of weeks, gotten better, at least approachable, but before that, for the month, they were in communication.
Yeah, that's very true, and that's why I said the past week and a half, and maybe even, I don't know if I go as far as 2 weeks, but I've talked to Paula almost every day. Unfortunately, it's because there's been an issue, but I've also been on the phone with her for at least an hour, and we've covered many things. She's, like I said, she set up that account within a day and had it to me. They're actually I don't know if they're responding to me with the email so quick because they're happy that they're getting rid of our payroll. We're taking it on, so they're all for that, and maybe this door will close in a week or two, but it's, and again, her providing access to that Avid Exchange so we can actually go and track this, hopefully should help some.
I don't think they want us on their resume of terminating them either.
No. So,
Yeah.
Anything else?
Let's have them here.
Mike? Thank you, Mike.
thank you.
Okay, we have the consent agenda, one item, minutes of the January 4th, 2018 meeting. I have a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second,
So
please.
second.
And a second. Any corrections, deletions, additions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 3-0. Action items, entry monuments proposal 5A. Mr. Manager, are you bringing this to us?
I am. Like
Oh.
this.
Okay.
Bill, before we get started on that, can we get some background? I usually open the board book on Monday and read up on Tuesday, no golf that day, to see what's going on. My phone rang off the hook. I'll tell you one thing, we asked the question, how many people go online? I don't know if we've got a jungle drums or smoke
Signal.
deals, but my phone rang off the hook over the weekend on this issue. And in fact, I had to leave the happy hour the other night at the club. I thought they were going to tar and feather me and ask me what I had for brains, and it wasn't a real nice substance. What are you doing? Talking about changing logo and site. Are you crazy? Where did this come from? I thought we were going to talk about a deal to try to take and just modernize the two signs, and all of a sudden now I'm seeing $58,000 in fees, and that don't even buy the sign.
Somebody want to stand up?
Where did this all come from? Because this hit me cold turkey. I said, I don't know what this is about.
Just modernize the signs, that's what we
And
would.
as you could tell by the tone of my deal, I'm voting against it right off the bat.
For the record, Michael Tisch, we have a contract with Mr. Prezi to do the landscaping. We were going to revise landscaping, but I've spoken to you a few times that our landscaping irrigations, well, the irrigation system is in such a state right now that enhancing the landscaping and doing more and then trying to irrigate it properly, I felt it was we get a set of plans and that they would just be put on the shelf and we wouldn't be able to implement it for years until we get our irrigation system straightened out. I had asked you that if we could repurpose those dollars to look at the monument signs, and also in speaking with with Bill, one of the things he said, well, you might want to also look at your logo and rebranding. I said, oh, okay, put it on the proposal. We'll see what the board has to say, and that's all it was. It was we were going to come to you and discuss it as we are today. I mean, we didn't have any plans to do anything without your approval, so.
Let's hear.
As Michael put it, Bill Prezi, principal landscape architect with Land Architects for the record. As Michael put out, in talking through what some of the pitfalls were with why the roadway master plan element wasn't coming around, and there was a lack of synergy, and especially as you pointed out, with the condition of the irrigation system really would put a delay feature on that pretty long trek out. So we looked back at looking at engaging in something that would have much more of immediate need and immediate impact for the community. It was me that suggested looking at the logo redesign as part of that process. And I'll say that the reason I said that, and I certainly didn't mean to step on anybody's toes or to insult anybody in that, is that I've been associated with redesigning entry features throughout my 30 years in many cases, and sometimes, you know, the existing logos and fonts and whatnot are sacrosanct, and sometimes people want to update them. You see corporations do it all the time, so it was only a suggestion on my part to look at that as a course of working that into the design. And I was trying to be as transparent as I could in putting the proposal together, in that it is actually, you know, I've done, like I said, I've done some logos and whatnot for entry features in my career, but I certainly do not have the prerequisite experience or expertise to take on something like that. So therefore, I reached out to a colleague of mine that I've worked with for over 20 years, Chris Spiro, with Spiro & Associates, because he has that kind of background and expertise. And I just talked to Chris about what it would take to just look at that scheme and put it into the context that we could present to you and to the community what our ideas were. So in that effort of being transparent, that is actually a straight pass-through. I asked Chris to give me a proposal. I put it into my proposal, and there's no markup. It's a straight pass-through item in there. And it was, as Michael pointed out, it was my intent to come up here and just discuss that with you guys. And if Mr. Tinkle, as you pointed out, is, you know, what was I thinking? If that's something that you don't even want to scratch the surface of, I try to structure it as such that just scratch that line out.
The question of the people that called me was, is that, did our landscape committee come up with this? Where did it come from?
It came
So it
up
just-
from
okay.
one guy.
Okay, I
Came from
appreciate
one
your honesty in taking the.
Oh, I'll take the arrows on that, and I have no problem with that, and I hope at least my explanation makes it, people understand why I did that. And really is that, if, you know, to me, actually, what actually makes me feel really good about it is that you got that kind of reaction, which means that there is an active community. There is an outreach element in here. So if we go through and do these redesigns, it sounds like you've got some active community members here. They're going to take interest in that process. That actually makes me extremely happy to know that there's going to be that kind of an engagement. That's going to make the outreach effort a lot easier. So the fact that you got that kind of reaction from just the proposal idea actually warms my heart to realize I think it's going to be very positive moving forward on the design side of it. So it really comes down to you guys and how the community, you know, you guys react to what their needs and what their reactions are, whether we want to touch that or not. If we don't, the way I look at it is, you look at that logo right there, the griffin is pretty much is a mythical, classical creature, and a Helvetica font kind of suggests a classical style of form. So if I use that as an existing element that we're going to stick with, it works actually better for me because it gives me a more of a set parameter of what we're going to start out with. So if we're going to work with the logo and not touch it, that actually makes my start in getting into this a little easier because the parameters are a little more set.
Bill, would you answer some questions from Mrs. Flaherty, please?
I would be more than happy to.
I also got many comments about this, including, I'm also concerned about the price, okay? Because basically.
My price or the logo
No,
price or everything?
This whole price. My basic thing is that we were just gonna do a facelift to the existing
Monument.
monuments, thank you for filling in. And that's $47,750 to do a facelift, just to design it. It seems to be a little bit high in my,
Well, did you read the scope of it?
I did read the whole scope, but it just seems to be high.
Well, let me ask you this. Working backwards, typically, the design fee on a project is 5 to 6%, somewhere in the neighborhood, which would say it's in the ballpark of 20 times the construction cost. If I take your fee and multiply it times 20 times, are we saying that we're looking at $1 million worth of construction? Because if we are, get the tar and feather out.
Yeah.
No, and I don't necessarily agree with your.
Because
with
typically,
your-
engineering
with your-
fees, the
with-
landscape fees are 5, 6, 7%. And if
They're-
I take,
they're relative, though. I think you're stating that more from an architectural standpoint, Mr. Tinkle, and I would agree with you. But when you're looking at something that's a little more elemental like that, the proportional cost is a little bit different. So I would say you're not looking at $1 million worth of improvements, but it may be a higher percentage than you're suggesting here. And the reasons that, you know, maybe it seems high to you is if you look into it, it's one of the things I wanted to do in this process is one of the reasons I was hired in the first place was our ability to use, you know, 3D animation and digital imagery as a means of conveying that design. And the ability of doing that, so everybody that sees what we're going to propose is going to be in a playing field that everyone's going to understand. It's going to be in a very realistic 3D type of situation. So someone who sees it, it's just not going to be in a typical architectural elevation, cross-sections, and a plan, which virtually only professionals really understand. We're going to put it in a virtual matter where people can see it. And that's why I included those images in your, I hope you got color versions of them as well. But that's the reason I put them in there, is to give you an idea of what that's going to entail. And the reason I did that, and there's some cost for that, is so that the community would have a very clear understanding of what it is we're going to present. And whether it's a facelift, whether it's a tear down and a redo, or whether it's just working within the structural components of the existing walls, is something we have to determine in the process. And that will equate the cost at the end of the day.
Well, the last time we talked, and obviously you weren't here, and I was in agreement with it, is that we have essentially, I believe, 5 entrances into Gateway. We have Commerce Lakes Drive East, Commerce Lakes Drive West, Gateway Boulevard, Griffin, and
Daniel.
Daniels.
Stony Brook
Five
and-
entrances, Stony Brook, yeah.
And you have
5
West Links too.
5, I'm sorry.
You have West Links and you have the corner monument too.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you're right, 6.
And you
6
have all the
entrances.
end cap elements.
In cap elements, to me, it's,
What I included.
yeah, yeah. But the thought is that we right now have, and the board may not agree with me, but my deal is that the Stony Brook entrance is one heck of a monument up there that they have got. It would seem to me that we would take somehow, some way, that concept and put it the other 5 locations. I'd hate to take and put in something different on the other 5 and leave that one up, because that doesn't tie it together. And that one is so extravagant, I hate to see tearing it down.
I don't think you'd ever want to tear that down. That one
Yeah.
you'd obviously want to reskin, because that wall was actually built by Lennar for Stony Brook, and Stony Brook was a Lennar product.
The only
in
thing
its
that's
day.
bad about that wall or that monument is it just is Stony Brook at Gateway. It doesn't carry anything else that the rest of the community has, like the logo, like the other ones do. I don't have any problem with doing something and addressing our monuments or lack thereof, because West Links has nothing at Daniels. Commerce Lakes at Arborwood, Commerce Lakes West has nothing, and Commerce Lakes East has nothing. And for that point, Griffin Drive doesn't have anything either, does it? It doesn't have a monument up there.
Griffin in 82.
It's a
does.
wall, isn't it?
Has
Yeah.
a little.
Yeah. But anyway, all of those are old, and they're that composite wall that I don't have a problem in looking at something like that and using the Stony Brook, but when I read this, I thought, wow. But right off the bat, changing the logo was, I'm just not
Like I said,
not
I
into
will,
that
I
at
will
all.
take all those arrows and realize that was probably a recommendation to Michael that probably should have stayed in my head.
But going backwards, I understand your position on the marketing, the extra marketing that goes into doing this, and the proposal categories that you've added extra that are beyond what I just call preliminary design, and construction.
Right.
There's more to it.
And
I still get back to the.
I wanted to add one other thing, is the reason that it actually stops and it has a to be determined at the CD level was done for 2 reasons. Because if I'm at this stage and I don't really have an idea of what we're designing yet, and I'm gonna put a cost of doing construction documents for it, I have to look at it as a worst-case scenario. What could be the most cumbersome, most detailed, the most involved element that I would have to put construction documents to give you a number for? That number one, so I didn't want to do that as an effort of, if I give you the numbers at a later date, they would be more in tune to exactly what those elements are going to be, and that number could be high or low. The second part of it was also to give you the flexibility, is if you're not happy with my work, you can take that to somebody else.
What kind of, I hate to use the word typical, because typical to me is not typical to somebody else, but a dollar value can we expect on paying for monument additions of just the 6? Or let's just say we hold Stony Brook with minor modifications and change the
I don't
other 5.
think
Are
I
we
don't think
talking
you're gonna
100,
change-
are we talking $100,000, or are we talking $500,000?
Oh, you mean in terms of actual cost?
Cost.
I would say you're probably scratching the surface at $500,000 or less.
I go out on the street, I can
And that,
sell.
but I say that,
Yeah.
Ed, but I'm sorry, Supervisor Tinkle.
I understand that.
That it really is, are we tearing down and redoing? Are we working within the actual footers and footprints of the existing signs? If we're doing that and just reskinning them, repainting them, changing the form and the scale of them, it could be a fraction of that.
I think we have to do it a little bit different and go back to the way that I was doing my engineering work. Is my client pretty told me how much money they were willing to spend, and then I work it into that budget.
Correct.
And I think that's where we go. I don't even want to leave this room with the thought that I have in the back of my head, $500,000. There might be somebody out there in the parking lot that's going to shoot me.
They got tar heating up there.
There's tar heating up out there right now. I don't doubt it. I just think that number is
But it has to be-
humongous in light of what we have to do, that the government is telling us we have to do, let alone changing the look of a sign.
But I would be remiss if I didn't tell you that's what that could be. But if you're saying, okay,
I appreciate that.
we don't even want to consider spending that kind of money, that again, that gives me another parameter in which to work with. Okay, that says to me, we've really got to work into the structural context of what's out there. And then bring the scale and the scope and the context of them up. That would be a dramatically different cost difference.
And again, I'm speaking from what I believe. I'd take this whole thing and put it on the back burner and bring back to the front burner what we have talked about for a long time. And that is this landscaping and this irrigation system. I'm a little bit different, Mike, on that irrigation system. It's something that we can't not talk about. That irrigation system is ridiculous out there. The control system, we're using nodes and batteries. We might as well go back and just run garden hose up and down Gateway Boulevard.
Yeah.
Now that is something that we can spend money on, to me, to protect our investment in our landscaping. But this, to me, I put that on the back burner.
You in agreement?
Yep.
You got unanimity on that.
I'm sorry?
I said you have unanimity of this board on what Mr. Tinkle just said about
So we're
it.
back to the drawing.
I'd like to come back, well, I'm not going back to the drawing board on this, I just take it off the drawing board for the while. I would like to have you come back with a presentation of what we can do, and this is where the problem really comes, chicken or the egg. I don't know how you go out and do an irrigation system until you know what you're going to put there. I'd much rather see a master plan, which is what I thought we were doing a long time ago, a master plan of what Gateway's look is going to be. Is it going to be the same? And if it is the same, then we change our irrigation system to accordingly handle that volume of water needed to do that. If we're going to change from grass to something that uses, well, grass probably is the biggest one that uses a lot of water. If we're going to take something that doesn't use a lot of water, then I don't need to run a 6-inch irrigation line down the road. So it seems to me that the first thing we need to do is to talk about what our landscaping plan is, then the cost of an irrigation system to provide water to it.
Okay.
Because it's two totally different things depending upon the plant or the product that we put in.
Mrs. Tinkle, Mr. Flaherty wants to say something.
Long day.
I'm going to disagree with you, Mr. Tinkle. I think we should look at the irrigation first, because there is too much, there's too many Band-Aids on the irrigation system. There's parts that we can't even get to fix the irrigation. So why should we plan a beautiful landscape when we don't have the
How do you know how
access
much
to-
water you need?
Well, you
Well, you won't know how much water
You need to know
until
what you need to
design
know
it.
what you're putting in to be, because if you're going to put in something like over along Gateway Green or Gateway Green's wall, you drip line it. You don't need heads. Very easy, very inexpensive. But if you're going to do like we're going to redo West Links, we're putting in $100,000 on 6,000 feet of new irrigation and control system. So, and it makes a big difference of what you're putting in, as to what you put in controllers, what do you put in heads, not counting the pipe that you have to lay to feed it, because the pipe that we've got out there in the ground has been there 30 years. So I'd much rather see our efforts going to looking at the irrigation system in conjunction with what the landscape people would like to see. For the most part, I learned this a long time ago when we were doing the roads. My idea was if I had my choice, I'd go down there and chop every one of those oak trees down. I could care less about that canopy. But I've learned that's not the look.
eating that
The scars are
flour
still
up
on my
there.
back. That is the look that people like. So we're going to keep that. Now the question is, what do you do in addition to that? Or what do we have that nobody likes that we want to change? But
Okay, you've
all
made-
of that, the point is that I think we're on the right deal of doing something, but it's not the monuments. I'd much rather put my money on the irrigation system and/or landscape changes.
Let
Thank
me
you.
ask you something, just
Thank you.
to make sure I'm on the same page, because I'm going to be taking direction from Chris and Michael on this at the end of the day. It seems to me that you really want more of a simplified master plan that
Yes.
kind of looks at everything, so you can actually determine what you need to do with that irrigation system.
You
Because I know
sta-
Chris has very distinct
You
ideas
started-
of what needs to be done with it.
You started out and had presented to us a, for lack of a better term, I'm going to say an as-built of Gateway. You gave us that.
It was going to start with
That was the start.
an inventory.
An inventory.
Right.
Yeah, we have that inventory. My thought was then is that committee, the landscape committee, was then going to take that in pieces and say, I'd like to see this change to this, or this change to that, or this change to that. To me, that's the next step. Then,
After
once
your
you figure out
inventory.
what you want,
Well,
You go to
in
the
my mind,
irrigation.
after you do your inventory and you start doing your master planning, you do that, and then you break that down into the pieces.
correct, and we've got the inventory, we're done with that. So the next thing is, the next step to me would be getting the input of what people want to see is going to be.
Yes.
Or do we do nothing? I assume that the do nothing option is very viable. We have some places that, good example, all those medians, down the middle of those medians, we've learned the hard way. Those are good ones that are gonna be do nothing. Because the county's gonna have a conniption fit if you do anything that blocks line of sight.
Well, and they're gonna raise their own standards.
So those are clean. Those are clean. So all we can do is have water to irrigate those. The sides is where we got it, and then the big common areas. Those is where I would think we'd be directing our attention.
Do you feel the community outreach portion of that exercise can be conducted in these meetings?
No.
I'd much
And/or
rather
done
do it.
through your website?
I'd much rather do it through a committee, a landscape committee.
That's what we endeavored to do the first time that
They
fell
get rid of
apart.
the landscape. Yeah.
Please.
I think we do have to go out to the residents and see, what they like about Gateway, what they don't want to see changed in the landscaping, before we even make a plan of changing the landscape.
Use a survey monkey. Works
So-
great.
Or, yeah,
But somebody's got to put the questions in there to be able to get a good response or get a good understanding of what the residents are asking. And one of them you better put down there at the very bottom is, what are you willing to pay?
There you go.
Oh, you have to.
Got it to know. what-
One of the things I found in my
Could go in the
experience,
water bill.
Supervisor Tinkle, is before you ask the question, is that you really have to have some ideas that you're suggesting to support those questions. Because if you just ask questions, it really,
I
you'll
don't
get
have, I
answers
don't have
that
any, I don't have any problem with that.
They're so all over
All
the
my
map.
deal is that bottom line, it's gonna come down to money. It's gonna come down to money. How much money does a typical resident wanna pay at the end of the year on their GSCDD non-ad valorem tax increase to pay for landscaping?
And the answer is less.
right. That's right, that's true.
Well, if I put it in categories of 0 to 10, 10 to 50, 50 to 100, or 100 and greater, I'll leave it to your imagination of which block's gonna get filled out.
Please, go ahead.
But I do think we owe a responsibility to the community. This irrigation system is antiquated bad.
You made that point, Mrs.
He needs to
Flaherty
do it.
has another comment.
Okay. Is, in that survey, it could go out with the water bill, because everybody gets a water bill, correct? And that way, we know
Survey
that-
Monkey's online.
Yeah, but not everybody goes online. This way, we know we've reached everybody with the water bill.
you can do them both, do it both.
Well, you can do both, right. But I'm just saying, this way, we know we've given everyone an opportunity to take the survey, and we're not leaving anyone out.
I don't have any problem with that. My thing is that somebody has got to figure out what these options or alternatives are that you're going to explain to them to get them to give you an opinion back.
So
That's going to be the hard part.
And that's key.
That's the key part.
That is key, yep.
could that be something we discuss at the workshop? That's too
Maybe.
much already on the agenda.
Thank you, Bill.
You got it. I'll look for you.
Okay.
We have one committee report that says P-PAC. Phil, you have something for us?
You have a written report
Yeah.
in here. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions for Phil on,
Thank you.
We can't figure out why.
page 133. The first one is track L, we beat that thing to death. He's talking about a capital reserve study and a new P-PAC member. Do you have any questions for Phil on that?
No, I don't.
No.
No?
No.
Thank you, Phil. We're going to go on then to supervisor comments. Mrs. Flaherty.
I do not have any comments. I asked them all during
Good,
the meeting.
good.
Thank you.
Mr. Tinkle.
I think I only have one. We all, again, received a letter. I don't know what stirred it, because I called. This is the letter from Commissioner Pendergrass to us.
Yeah, explain that to me. I read it 3 times.
Well, I had to call him, well, he called me, and he usually doesn't call me unless we're going to go play golf, but this one wasn't golf. Apparently, somebody over, and Mike or Chris may chime in, somebody over evidently in the fun park said something to him or called him, and the inference is that, well, the county should be paying for it, or something to that nature.
I sent it to you.
And he says, you guys understand over there, anything that's yours and that wasn't paid for by us, you do with it however you want to do it. But if it was paid, as he says in the letter, if it was paid through impact fees, you bought the operation and maintenance. And remember Ed Seichel bringing that up years ago?
Yeah.
We signed on the dotted line and signed our life away on that deal. So it is what it is, it is. I think he was trying to write back and make sure that we as a board knew the relationship that we had with the county. The county isn't picking up the tab for any of our operation and maintenance expenses. It's that simple.
I forwarded it to you, Mike.
But what precipitated it was somebody at, I want to say Eagle Point, or somebody that's over in the neighborhood of the fun park, got in touch with him over a misunderstanding, and I think it had to do with the frustration that they're having relative to security, is what I think really is driving it. That fun park, from what I hear, and I've not been over there, so I don't have any weapons, so I don't want, I wouldn't feel safe going over there without one, from what I hear is going on, is that it's turned into a gang haven. Turned into a gang haven, and the people are upset about it.
Well, we're going to have.
And my thing is that we can stop that real quick, like just have uncalled for, unless Chris or Mike want to be involved on the getting the notice, and have the police pop over there every other night, and then just start inspecting cars and everything else. The only way you can get those out of there is you're going to have to run them out of the community.
For the record, Michael Tisch said, I have had conversations with the detail coordinator with the Lee County Sheriff's Office, and they're going to be focusing patrols on the weekend that actually they weren't, and looking at their detail logs, they weren't actually stopping at the fun park. So I noted that to the detail coordinator, that they were going to other locations within the district, but they weren't stopping at the fun park where we're having problems, and they have been stopping there. I've been reading the detail reports. They've been, during the week, they stop in there. They've issued a few citations already, and they'll be going in there on the weekend. And then speaking with Chris, I think we're going to actually ask them to go in. We're going to look at getting an additional detail to go in both on Friday night and Saturday night, just to make sure we don't have trouble there.
Well, before you came on board, Mike, and correct me, Bill and Kathleen, but I recall that we had a discussion of something of dusk to dawn. What are they even there for? How are they getting in? It's closed. They shouldn't even have one vehicle over there after the sun sets.
dark.
There's not a gate there currently.
What'd you say?
There's not a gate.
Oh,
Well, I would say if we would have Lee County Sheriff's Office go over there for about 5 nights in a row at 6:30 and just run them out, they'll get the hint.
And there was I guess there's also a sign over there. There's that somebody has taken down. I was actually speaking with Miss Flaherty. We're going to put the sign back up and make it so that it can't be removed.
Well, I know when I was a kid, somebody put a sign up, I just ignored it.
It also
But when
gives
the guy
the-
comes there with a little badge, that got my attention.
It gives the sheriff's office the ability to ticket and us to tow vehicles because it says no overnight parking, no long-term parking.
Or no
and it-
loitering, no
No trespassing dusted on, and that gets them out
No
of there.
loitering, that's kind of.
But I'm all for favor of that, but I think that's what started it, is the people's concern for security, and they went to the county and tied the two together, because, we tell people, we're not an enforcement arm, call Lee County. Well, they took it one step further and thought that Lee County would be picking up the tab. But anyway, that's all I have.
Is that property, can I ask a question? Is that property the fun park only for Gateway residents?
It's a public
Should
park.
be,
Yes.
well,
It's a
there's,
public
park.
no, there's no federal funds on, or no state fund,
Or
Lee
county
County funds are
funds.
in it, that's ours to call.
If you had signs,
But it's a public
residents
park.
only?
Doesn't make any difference. We can keep them out of that one. We can keep anybody out of Gateway, or anybody from outside of Gateway out of that park. And it's predominantly Lehigh.
Did you want to say something?
Are we gonna talk anymore about them, $50,000 signs that was about to go to 500,000 before I leave?
We're not going to do any of those.
I appreciate it. That's what I wanted to bring up, so you don't need me.
Okay,
But don't vote on nothing while I'm done.
all right. We're ready to.
That's all I have, Bill.
We're ready to adjourn, folks. It's 5:53. Any?
Second.
To adjourn. We are adjourned at 5:53. Thank you all for coming and participating.
That gives all a common area. There is